everyone! We are still very much in September. This time continue the KuguInuShiba story because they were in the randomized prompts, so it would be a shame not to use that. And I promised some fluff for them, so obviously I have to use that. I know I promised Sakuatsu, don't worry, it's done, I just have to voice it. That's all. So I will make it until the end of September. No worries. As always, special thanks to my lovely patrons and all of you who subscribe and watch these videos. They are keeping this channel going and alive, so I hope you will enjoy this one. The days were slowly starting to get colder, Kugure noted to himself with a glance out of the window. The early morning fog hung in the air, covering the grass and an occasional spider web with a thin layer of dew and giving the whole city a quiet, peaceful look. It was but an illusion, Kugure knew. The city was about to wake up as soon as the sun risen a bit more, chasing the mist away and people out of their beds. But he could enjoy the first signs of the upcoming autumn for now at least, with both of his boyfriends still sleeping soundly behind his back. He couldn't stop the soft smile from appearing on his lips. It had been about a week since his birthday and the whole nightmare around it. He was still trying to comprehend everything, his mind taking its sweet time sorting out the whole thing. But Yuki and So were patient. And so attentive. He definitely couldn't complain about lack of attention from them. Not that he ever could, but this was different. Softer, much more careful and reassuring than anything he had had the chance to feel before. And for once, he felt like he was actually worth the hassle. Lucky Yuki can't read minds. He could vividly hear Shibayama's voice in his head, telling him off for thinking lowly of himself again. As if he didn't hear it at least once a day out loud. But it was sweet, and Kugure couldn't be more grateful for having him around. For having both of his boyfriends around. As if hearing his thoughts, Inoka stirred on the bed, mumbling something Kugure didn't catch, before he snuggled closer to Shibayama, comfortably nested in his arms. Fond ache squeezed Kugure's chest, a brief thought on how much he wished to go back to bed and join in flashing through his mind. But he couldn't this time. He had work to do. Maybe tomorrow. As quietly as he could, he tiptoed out of the room, leaving the two in their peaceful slumber, and headed to the kitchen to get a quick bite for breakfast before he had to leave to meet his publisher. However, he barely got to sit down when the quiet tapping of bare feet on the floor caught his attention. He looked up, smiling when he spotted Shibayama slowly waddling towards him, still rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. "Why aren't you sleeping?" Kugure didn't get to answer before Shibayama draped himself over his shoulders, rubbing his head against his cheek like a big cat. "Shouldn't I be asking that? You have a free day, don't you?" "Yeah, but you disappeared. Why?" "I have a meeting, remember?" Shibayama groaned quietly and snuggled closer to him, hiding his face in the crook of his neck. "Who puts meeting on Sundays?" "My publisher, apparently." Shibayama huffed. "Idiot. He should let you sleep. You are a writer, not a robot. Just tell him to let you rest if he wants any progress. Or I will tell him." Kugure couldn't help but chuckle. "Please don't. I need that job. Besides, I can sleep another day. It's fine." "But then we won't be able to stay with you. This was a rare opportunity to wake up together, and someone has to ruin it." Kugure's heart fluttered. He gently squeezed Shibayama's forearm and leaned more into the embrace, earning a kiss on the cheek. "Just make sure you get enough rest tomorrow, okay? And take your coat when you go out. It's cold." I have a jacket. That will be enough. No, it's barely 4 degrees. Take your coat. He nuzzled into Kuguri's hair. We don't want you to get sick, so wear a coat and be careful, please. Kuguri could about melt there and then. He shooed away the hesitant thoughts and turned his head a bit to get a proper kiss, much to Shibayama's apparent delight if he could judge by the content hum he received. Alright, I will be, I promise. Good. That goes for everything, okay? Not just temperature. I'm not doing anything dangerous, Yuki. It's just a walk and ride by train. I'll be back in 2 hours, maybe less. I know, but there's so many things that can happen on the way. You got hurt just by being in the kitchen. Kuguri cringed inwardly, instinctively lowering his head. He was sure Shibayama didn't mean it in a bad way, but the reminder that he couldn't even cook rice without everything going up in flames still stung. Shibayama had to notice the effect his words had as he tightened his embrace a bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel bad about that again. It wasn't even your fault. I don't want to see you injured again. That electric shock was enough. He snuggled even closer if it was physically possible. You have no idea how scared I was when I saw the burnt outlet. I've heard how those cases can end sometimes, and I had no idea where you went, and it was scary. So please be careful. Please. No more scares. Kuguri was rendered speechless for a moment, the words repeating in his head a few times. Of course he knew his boyfriend cared about him. They showed it many times before, especially in the last several weeks. And yet, hearing it all from Yuki's mouth was so different, in the best way there was. That's what boyfriends are for. He smiled. Then, I promise I'll be extra careful. No more injuries or sickness. Shibayama nodded, apparently satisfied with the answer. I'll take your word for it. Now, do you want to help with breakfast? We can't let you go on an important meeting with an empty stomach, can we? He had to admit Shibayama was right about the temperature. Chills bit into his skin the moment he stepped outside their apartment complex, making him shiver and pull the coat closer to his body. He loved autumn, even for the colder temperatures, but the jump from summer was a bit too fast for his liking this year. Shaking his head, he sped up, hoping to keep himself a bit warmer with movement. He contemplated a short run to the train station, if only for the sake of training he wasn't able to do the prior week with everything going on, but then decided against it. Cold air was bad for his throat, and he was getting enough of it already, even without running. However, as careful as he was, he started to feel the familiar scratching in the back of his throat the moment he exited the train at his stop, and by the time he finished the meeting, he could barely swallow without pain. He rubbed his throat, desperately wishing for the pain to go away. How did it even happen so fast? His mind took him back 2 days prior when, in a sudden need to cool down, he opened the window on himself when he was working with his hair, and apparently his neck too, still wet from the shower. So much for being careful. The pain only intensified as he boarded the train back home, not leaving him in peace for the whole ride, and by the time he opened the door of their flat, he could barely rasp out a quiet greeting. No footsteps welcomed him this time, for a second giving him hope that his boyfriends were out and he could start caring about his throat without worrying them too much, but a double welcome home that followed crushed the hope to pieces. He pushed those thoughts away, mentally berating himself for slipping back into the bad old habits of keeping things for himself, and headed inside to face the impending lecture about his health. Now! Inoka no less than beamed and immediately wrapped him in a firm hug. How dare you leave without a good luck kiss, huh? Sounds like you need it. Oh, do I? Shibayama just raised his eyebrow and pushed a cup of still steaming tea into his hands the moment Inoka let go of him for a bit. Yeah, don't think we don't hear how raspy you sound. Didn't I tell you to be careful? It was, I swear, it's not from today, I think. That's true. You don't start rasping just out of blue in one morning. Don't excuse him. His face softened when he turned back to Kuguri, carefully taking his hand in his own. What is it? Your throat? Yeah, it hurts a bit. Okay, drink the tea and go to bed, preferably with some scarf around your neck. We'll bring you something to soothe the pain. Kuguri opened his mouth, his first instinct almost screaming at him to protest, to say it wasn't necessary and he could take care of it himself. But now, things were different. He didn't have to pretend. He didn't have to force himself to stay unbothered on the outside. And so he let out a soft sigh and leaned back into Inoka's embrace, minding the tea in his hand to not burn anyone. Thank you. For nothing. Now come on. Under Inoka's watchful gaze, he was soon huddled in a blanket cocoon on their bed, a scarf around his neck, and a cup of tea in his hand. Hopefully we got it in time. He handed Kuguri one of the lozenges and settled next to him on the bed, slowly running his fingers through his hair to move them from his eyes. Kuguri paused. Should I get a haircut? Chuckling, Inoka gently bumped their foreheads. How did you think of that right now? It just occurred to me that you've never told me if you like my hair this long. And you're always pushing it away from my face. He squeezed the mug in his hands, his chest constricting. He liked his hair longer, and yet he couldn't count how many times he went to a barber, asking for a cut. Adjusting, trying to be to the right picture, to look and be lovable, all the time, and it still wasn't enough. And yet he would do it again in a heartbeat if it meant his boyfriends would like it more. Like him more. He startled a bit when Inoka cupped his cheek, the sweetest smile resting on his lips. No, I love everything about you in any form and shape. So long or short, I'll like it. Kuguri blinked in surprise, his thoughts staggering. Are you sure? I can cut it. It's not a problem, really. Shh. It's okay. No need to stress about that. But... do you want to cut it? Kuguri froze, avoiding Shibayama's gaze. No. Then why would you? He set the tray with a bowl of some soup on the nightstand and settled on Kuguri's other side, giving his hand a firm squeeze. We love you the way you are. That includes the way you look. If anyone ever told you anything different, they didn't deserve you anyway. His face softened. I know it's still a bit difficult for you to grasp that after what those other idiots told you, but please trust me in this. Yeah, we don't want you to change against your will. Anything you want is fine with us, but don't force yourself into anything. Kuguri quickly lowered his head, biting on his lip to stop the waterfall of words threatening to spill from his mouth. He didn't need to say anything anyway. Perhaps just... I love you too. There was a beat of silence, after which he was crushed in a sandwich of two bodies, the pleasant warmth from their presence and Inoka's light laughter spreading fast through his chest, melting the ice so far encapsulating his heart. He wished they could stay like that forever, no matter what, but Maybe you shouldn't get so close to me. I don't want to get you sick too. Nah, no worries. My immune system is phenomenal. Oh yeah? Did you happen to forget winter last year? Inoka didn't miss a beat, though Kugure could swear he saw hints of pink coloring his cheeks. That was over a year ago. I'm a different man now. One with a strong immune system. He kissed Kugure's forehead. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine. Now dig into that soup and then huddle in. You need strength to get better. And what's better for strength than soup made with love by yours truly? Shibayama rolled his eyes, but there wasn't a grain of annoyance in it. You act like you had to cook it. I was the mental support. Yeah, right. Kugure hid his smile behind the spoon, his heart swelling. Seems like things are back to normal. Though perhaps things were going to get even better now. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. So with the next Sakuatsu, it's going to be the end of September. I can't see myself finishing any more of the prompts I have prepared. I still did 5 out of 8, which for me it's pretty good, considering I had to include the re-uploads and all that stuff. And we will move on to Ominous October, which is basically Nightmare November, just Halloween themed. So that's going to be fun, hopefully. I already have some ideas formed, so that should be okay. Plus, since there aren't many people in my work these days, I can finish the scripts quite fast, surprisingly enough. So yeah, I think you have a lot to look forward to. Fingers crossed. If you have any requests or ideas, the request form is linked in the video description. See you next time.